So today's person on Last Meal on Earth is Henri Pearson. It's a bit of a mouthful because he's been through a lot. So he's an account manager. He was an award winner of IPM 30 Under 30 for marketing, and he's a music artist. So welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thanks.
So the first question is, it's always interesting to get a bit of a background. So where were you born? Where did you grow up, and where are you living at the moment?
Yeah, so I was born in Hull. Obviously just had the city culture, it was I grew up just outside of Hull, so I grew up at ladies, well, it was in Hummelsboldemore, just outside of York, so in the countryside between Hull and York. And it was, really nice out in the countryside. And obviously York's a fantastic city, both are fantastic cities, um, and all across Yorkshire really. And I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I'm a Yorkshire lad.
So what was your life before you got the seed of being in marketing as a profession?
Yeah, well, I think I was always fascinated. I've always enjoyed singing and performing. And I was fascinated by media as an industry. I think things like billboards and radio and being able to be creative in what you write. I've always had a passion for writing articles and being creative and drawing and art and things like that. So, because I even sit on the board of Beam, which is a national arts charity, as well. So we commission arts projects across the UK,
Okay.
and yeah, I think my younger self, growing up, um, I was always kind of I knew that that's what the industry that I wanted to be in. In fact, I can remember when I started, one of the first things I did was ride around on an advertising bicycle in a bunny rabbit outfit, promoting First Capital Connect up and down Brighton Hill in the pouring rain. And I was just so determined, and now I work for one of the biggest broadcasters in the world, Bauer Media Group. So we've got over 100 radio stations across the UK, from Kiss FM, Magic, Absolute, Kerrang, Planet Rock, Jazz, and we've got magazines from Grazia, Take a Break, and Hello Magazine. We've got the and I'm also heavily involved in Beam, the arts charity, which I mentioned to you, and obviously make my own music as well. So yeah.
So, I mean, the majority of those magazines have transitioned to be away from print to be online. Has that been a major issue or concern?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've done some work in the past with Reach PLC National World, both on the kind of journalistic side and some work experience, and both on the journalistic side and also kind of in the commercial team. In fact, I even worked for a company called Rail Business Daily, which was the largest rail magazine in the UK, specifically for the rail market, talking about rolling stock and
Yes, yes, yes.
different parts of the rail industry. And I think more of the magazine businesses have just diversified. They've regrouped, they've restructured, they've commercialized. They've condensed themselves, and they are now just they're doing quite well because they have the online reach,
Yeah.
they have the direct um results of the readership of the magazine, and they've got their audiences. It's just not on the same scale as it used to be because of the circulation that newspapers and local press. So um, but I always enjoyed my time working. I mean, in Bauer, I don't work specifically. Bauer is split between two kind of businesses, the print and publishing side of the business and the audio side of the business. So my area, my role within Bauer is to support the audio side.
I see, I see. So, how did you pursue marketing? I mean, is this something you studied, or have you been majorly self-taught?
Well, we're going back to the days of school, which was over a decade ago. But I loved media, and if I loved performing, and singing and being up on stage. I remember I did an event with and we had a couple of celebrities, Journey South from the X Factor, and we had Nikki Patterson, who's a very famous speaker, and Terry Hodgkinson, who was the chairman of the largest regeneration agency in Yorkshire. And I went on stage and I performed Shane Ward, That's My Goal. And on this event at the school, which was to try and inspire young people into jobs, and it was called The Alchemist. It was a foundation across Yorkshire. And that those kind of moments got me into media. And then I absolutely smashed. I remember my first one of my media teacher, Miss Kenoy, Mrs. Kenoy, Miss Kenoy, and I smashed my media studies. In GCSEs, it's got an A star in that. So that's what really kind of kickstarted me in the media industry. And then it was everything from just noticing things like billboards and being creative in design and technology and art. And that then took off into getting my first job in media,
Yes.
working on live events and working, I worked at Dartford Festival, on Clip Around the World Yacht Race, on Le Tour de France and Le Tour de Yorkshire. Big, large LED screens, moving imagery, and sponsorships, and then up in mobile in big campaigns for Kingfisher Group and stuff like that. So it was really, that kind of kept me motivated and kept me enjoying what I was doing. And from there, I've just, over the last decade, I've just, loved um loved the media industry and the creative industry. And yeah, obviously led into other roles that I'm in now, and obviously my music.
So, what was your best campaign, and which was the most enjoyable campaign?
Wow. Okay, so that's difficult because I've run thousands of campaigns. I think I use which what would you like specifically? I really liked there was a campaign I did, and we're going back a very yeah, we're going back maybe 8 years. It was on Oxford Street, and it was for a brand under Decium, which is a huge company, multi-million-pound beauty brand. And it was for a brand called Inhibitive, which was about hair loss, and that had interactive, like you could move your hand with this big massive screen that pulled outside of Oxford Street, and people could wave up to the animated character and move the hair on and off the animated character, and it would talk about hair loss, and promote this Inhibitive brand. And Decium, most recently, which I noticed, has grown into be this multi-million-pound business, and sold out to Estee Lauder. And what I love about media is that happened a long time ago, but these campaigns that I've been able to play a part in have supported the growth, whether directly or indirectly, the
Yes.
growth of businesses to become, even more successful than they already were in their own right. And that is the beauty of marketing. We play a role in the journey of businesses growth. And if you get it right, you're going places.
So, who are the idols in marketing that you try to get inspiration from?
I love well there was the first guy was first one of my first ones was Sumner Redstone, Professor Sumner Redstone, and he was a well he if we're going back some time now, he was the founder. He passed away in 2000, a couple of years ago. But his daughter Shari Redstone is still the majority shareholder of the Viacom media company. Um, Viacom Group, and they have CBS, they have MTV, they have Nickelodeon. But Sumner Redstone in was a Japanese. He was a code breaker in the Japanese in the war against Japan on the American side, and his father owned a cinema chain, a small cinema chain in the US, worth a few $1 million. And he took that cinema chain on and he made that into a multi-billion-pound global media corporation that has delivered content for millions of people all across the world. Everything from the music industry to events to children's entertainment. And his book, A Passion to Win, was really inspired me and got me moving. And he was a professor at the Harvard Law School as well. So he was pretty, really interesting, intelligent, um, you know, leader in the media industry. And I thought, he was one of those people that, from what I read, inspired me to have big ambitions and to to realize the value of content, whether that be on air, on radio platforms, to on digital out of home billboards, and making sure that that content and that creative, or whether that be a television program or a film, making sure that it was engaging and there was a reason that the audience would view it. So he was one of them. I think I also like Brian L. Roberts as a leader. He runs Comcast, which is one of the biggest media companies in the world, owning Universal. And they bought Sky from Rupert Murdoch, which is now part of the Comcast
Yes.
family. And he is a really, his achievements, it stands at $1.69 billion media company that, have the likes of Sky and the Sky as a company. And I just think some of we're like walking with giants. These people are to have achieved what they've done in a lifetime is amazing. So he was I love his book, Comcasted. I think, or the book on him, Comcasted, and that was really interesting. And I also love, and we can't forget the Bob Iger of the Walt Disney Company, because Bob
Yeah,
Iger,
amazing. Yes.
a ride of a lifetime, and he is the only CEO. Oh well, he used to be the only CEO of, I think it was Bob Chapek, who took over from Bob Iger, and now Bob Iger's back. But the first CEO of the Walt Disney Company after Walt Disney himself.
Mm.
And it's amazing, the Walt Disney Company, how Walt Disney started just writing pieces on pieces of paper or doing manuals for the American Navy and Army in the war times, just writing animations to show how the structure of like tanks and supporting, because it was in those days it was the wartime, but he'd do it in animated characters, which got him made him passionate about drawing animation, which is where Mickey Mouse came from, and
Yeah.
other. And from there, that led to a global company that we all recognize when we see the castle and the star of, the famous logo and icon, or Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. And these are characters that have been with us for a lifetime or grown up in our life. Bambi, the movies Bambi. and so the Walt Disney Company was and Bob Iger as well, and obviously Walt Disney himself is people that inspire me. And I have to say the last one would be the Bauer family. I was actually who I work for now. The Bauers, Heinz Bauer, he started in, I think it was 89, it's 175 years ago. It might be so a very long time.
Yes.
I think it was 1875 or 1875, it might have been. Anyway, it was 175 years ago in Hamburg in Germany. And he was just doing print, as a printer. And then I think they acquired Hamburg Radio. They certainly owned Hamburg Radio and a couple of other radio stations in Germany, and just expanded over the years and have grown and grown and grown. And now they're a fifth generation, company that's been handed through the family, and it's just developed over time into radio assets, to magazine, into the Australian market, to be previous shareholders with Channel 4 or partners with Channel 4, having operations in the US and New Zealand, and being one of the, if not the biggest broadcaster in Europe, with some incredible brands, people, and the likes of Ken Bruce on air, So these people who have managed to achieve these incredible things in such a short space of time continue to inspire me every day by what they've achieved and what they do. And I think to myself, if I can be just 30% of what they are, I'm going to be really
I
successful.
know,
So
I know. It's
yeah.
difficult. It's difficult with you know, life gets in the way a lot of the time. What is your opinion on virtual marketing? So, sort of you have this online space where people have created a virtual world, and a lot of the marketers have come online. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
So in things like, do you mean Meta
Yeah, well, I
or?
mean, that is the product which is foremost. I mean, there are a few other ones where you can actually be a virtual person and interact, and you can actually see the billboards inside the virtual world, and you can interact with other people, and you can have a virtual marketer there as well. So I don't know whether I just want to find your opinion that, I mean, there's probably still the need for marketing in the traditional sense, but I think the virtual world will know a lot more about yourself, and it will be able to pair, the relevant marketing with something in relationship to something that you need or want, rather than at the moment you have a piece of marketing. You might have an advert for flowers, but you're probably never going to buy flowers, or you only buy flowers certain times of the year. So you go the impact of that marketing is fairly small, where you might have a situation where you have a mobile phone, and you've got all your likes and dislikes, and you can get target marketing. It's still sort of virtual. So I just think, are we going to move into that direction, or are we going to still have the current setup? Because then, of
Yeah.
course, you're going to get a situation where you're probably going to get a higher return from traditional marketing.
I think there'll always be a need for, I mean, there's always going to be a need for traditional marketing, whether that be out of home, on, press and,
Yeah.
and print, and, radio, television, that's not going anywhere. The size of those is just changing and adapting. Radio is moving more to online or digital devices like your Alexas, your smart speakers, your smartphones, with new solutions like digital audio, and your You know, television, there's always going to be need for a television. Television is not going anywhere anytime soon. Yes, people are watching and consuming it through things like OTT and on demand, and you know, Netflix and HBO. But you know, eventually I see those platforms becoming, and I think there's been discussion about already, if they're not, if they already are serving ads. So in the same way that television and your standard channels would. In terms of online, and to answer your question, um, I don't know much about Meta in terms of social media and online virtual spaces. You know, the differences in the traditional forms, there is they're heavily regulated. You know, they are regulated. The radio is regulated, and marketing and advertising by the radio center. You know, television is heavily regulated. You know, you've got the you know, where you could only do certain activities past, you know, in relation to adult activities at certain periods of time, and you know, it were all of the traditional mediums are regulated. You know, billboards. There's the Advertising Standards Authority. There's International Advertising Standards Authority and things like that as well. So, or you know, there are authorities out there and associations out there that regulate social media. I don't think government and legislation has moved quick enough to regulate social media. I've personally bought things online and they've not. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I mean, it's highly effective. Obviously, you're speaking into your smartphone these days, and adverts are popping up, and they're listening to what you're saying. And the same with on Facebook. You know, you're looking at a holiday, and all of a sudden a holiday for another company pops up on Facebook. But is it trusted? And I don't think it is. I think more and more people, yes, they use it as a way of communicating, Messenger, you know, Instagram posting photos. But I've bought stuff, it's not turned up, it's not been the right size, or it's been a scam. And with Meta, obviously that's an advance of the other social media platforms of these virtual worlds. It's, to me, you know, I'm 28. It's more like, I look at it as an online gaming thing. You know, it's more for game. I mean, and I've spoken to clients myself who have been charged. They've set a budget, and they've been charged 3 or 4 times that amount for these. It's not been that great of a campaign. And I think, you know, there is the gaming world of the on virtual, you know, and the next generation are growing up with apps, smartphones, so it might be different. But at the moment, you know, you've still got my generation, you know, I know many other generations above me, you know, who are only just getting used to. I mean, smart for all the amazing things that some of these smart technologies can do. So we're very much receptive to out of home, print, television, and our traditional mediums. What it's going to be like in the next 50 years, you know, it might be a completely different world, but we're always going to need, you know, you're always going to be walking outside your house into city centres. There's always going to be billboards there, and they're likely to be digital. I do envision and see, you know, out of home as a space that will integrate with and connect with social media. We've seen it before with Pokemon Go in New York City, you know, Times Square, and interactivity with social out of home, with social, you know, on apps and virtual world, and digital technology in the out of home spaces, and television and radio. Again, you know, I mean, we do a bit of online and social ourselves at Bauer, you know, creating video content. And it's all about content, isn't it? You know, it's about creating that engagement and content. But at the moment, I don't see, we look in traditional mediums, they're quite competitive with each other, but we look at social media as just a bit of a, it's got a different place, a beam off, you know, it's there's a whole new world. It's a bee moth, you know. You can there's so much you can do there. You Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and all. You know, you can spend an absolute fortune. Yes, you can get the reach, but is it effective? Is it working? And yeah, you can get these results and all these analytics and all this data, but if there's no point in spending all that money if you're not going to use anything with the data, you're not going to follow it up, or you're not going to react on the back of it. And social media, no matter, yes, cost per thousand, it can be quite cheap,
Yeah.
but is it actually working? Yes, it's reaching people, but is it getting that return on investment? Is it getting the click throughs? And I think and are we using the data properly? Um, and also, is it trusted? You know, are we building a trusted brand by using social media? So we just stay away, as in the traditional market, we stay away from that a little bit. I mean, I've sold web banners and stuff like that, but on websites, and used all of these social platforms to market myself. And there's no doubt, there's the engagement is there and the reach is there, but I think there's a lot of other factors as well, and not just social and virtual.
So what would you have done if you hadn't gone into the marketing arena and you didn't know that you were such a good singer?
Well, I thank you for that. That's very kind as well. Thanks so much. I always wanted to be, I was inspired by I studied broadcast journalism, and I really liked, there was a couple of reporters that I really liked. I loved Jon Snow on Channel 4.
Yes, yes.
I thought he was very interesting to watch, and he always presented, incredibly well. And Channel 4 is a great brand, and so I really liked, and Sir David Attenborough from the BBC Natural History
Yeah.
Unit, going and working in not necessarily conservation, but filming the natural world in order to protect it. And those were things that really, I suppose, being on camera, but also, I mean, Jon Snow would tell us about things happening in the world, like global conflicts or climate catastrophes, and those things. And obviously, Sir David Attenborough, would go around. He's created all these documentaries about some, incredible um, uh, documentaries on the blue planet and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's always inspired me. I think, though, that I would have ended up in that kind of, I'd have still been in media, but it would have been something different. Um, and I actually was inspired by being, the likes of Marie Colvin, who was a awards correspondent. I mean, she's no longer here now, but I like the idea of being able to go out to war zones caused by uh, man-made, they're
Yeah.
caused by man, and go and report on the atrocities that were happening in order to tell the world and make a change and make a difference. And so I did do a little bit of war journalism and work on war journalism, not myself going out to war zones, but a lot of research when I was
Yeah.
studying broadcast journalism. And that was, fascinating, really. So those are the things I would have taken a different, whereas at the moment I'm in the commercial team, and so we work on so I'm in the commercial team, and but if I'd have done things, I'd have pursued that, I'd have pursued that.
So in this interview, we're moving on to hobbies. So what do you do to relax? And do you have any special hobbies or interests that you follow?
Yeah, so I love traveling. I love traveling. This year I've been to Spain, just around the south of Spain. I mean, I've traveled all over many different parts of the world. I've also been to Indonesia. So, I love to go and explore new cultures, and see different things, and I believe it teaches you a lot, and you can learn a lot from traveling. You also get a lot of rest as well as a bit of sun, depending on where you're going. But I've done everything from, I've gone to Kenya, and I've been to adoption centers in Kenya, and out into the Tsavo National Park in Kenya, and seen the cheetahs and wild elephants and African elephants, to going to Bali with the monkeys, and over to Belize, where I've been swimming and diving with the nurse sharks and manta rays. So I really love, I think, exploring. I mean, I went to Mexico last year, the Pacific side of Mexico, over to the Marianas Islands, where you could literally only find the blue-footed booby, which is one of the world's most endangered bird species, on the Marianas or the Galapagos Islands, but they go to the Marianas to mate. And as I was going there was a pod of over, I mean, it must be about 2,000 dolphins, baby dolphins, 5 different species, from the spotted dolphin to, um, just, it was just incredible. It was, I mean, that, and it's amazing when you protect the environment, what you can see. And I think when you're living in a city, you forget about these, incredible places that need preserving and protecting. And even to bear watching in the north of Finland, in the freezing cold, watching and waiting for the bears. So I also play ice hockey. So I played ice hockey for England, or in the English national championship, say, 3 times running champion, and I've played it since I'm 3 years old. A lot of my family play it. My sister played for Great Britain for a very long time. My brother in Bradford, and my cousin up in Belfast. And I've played, and I just love, in Coventry, in Hull, in Leeds. I currently play for Leeds and Leeds Lightning. And I just love ice hockey. You get on that ice and you just forget about everything else. How many emails are in your inbox? How many, what you've, who, everything. You just forget about everything. You put it all, and the cold air just hits your face. And as you're skating around doing your warm up, and it's and then your mind starts to get into the training session or the game. And it keeps me fit and healthy and active, or relatively fit and healthy and active. And so they're probably the 2 top hobbies, and music as well. I mean, it was every kid's dream to be the next Justin Bieber, or the next super mega star. But I always kind of, I knew that in the music industry, it's a, you make it, or it's a make or break kind of thing. And however, there are a lot of fantastic independent artists out there, and I made a song. I went into the studio with in Loom Studios in Huddersfield, and I started to make a track. Worked with an independent record company, who and a guy who'd been a fantastic guy who'd been, had an experience working with Sony, and writing music. And we all put our heads together, wrote the song Stormy Weather, and we got on the phone to the original backing band of Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse, that used to go on tour with them. And we started recording the song. And then obviously with my marketing skills, I started to look at ways, once it had been recorded, how I was going to market it to audiences. And we've now reached, I mean, it must be from everything from platforms on out of home, across all streams, on social media channels, thousands and thousands of people all across the world. And music, and I even saw a post not so long ago from a young guy that had, been stuck in a storm in Asia. And there he is, stormy weather, stormy weather's getting him through, what is a really bad time for them. So The fact that my music has been able to touch people like that and inspire people or get people through dark times or tough times, and make a difference is really great. And I love being able to perform down at local pub and people go, or at local gigs and venues, and maybe I'm performing a cover song and that music relates to them, and they're listening to it and they think, oh wow, that this reminds me of my anniversary, or this is something sentimental, and you've sang it just as well as the artist did, and I'm like, oh wow, that gives me, that makes me happy, and I think it's nice to be able to perform live to people as well. So they're my hobbies. I think they're
Yeah.
the main three hobbies that I do. Yeah.
So, of all the locations you've visited, is there any one in particular where you said, I want to sort of move here when I mean I finish up with marketing in the UK?
I always wanted to retire. I love Belize. I loved the island of San Pedro, which is kind of peninsula. And I flew from Belize City to Belize, and I was there for about 3 weeks. And San Pedro, there's still that kind of culture in Belize. It's not been lost, but there's also a bit of American culture. Americans have moved over to Belize, and obviously got the Blue Hole, which is one of the wonders of the world, where for diving.
Yeah.
But it was such a really beautiful place, and I could imagine, having my own beach bar, retiring, just sat on the beach, drinking a mojito or pina colada, and by the beach, serving, on the beach, and just enjoying life. And I think Belize, it's one of those places. So I really, really loved going to Belize, but I have been to some incredible places. I mean, I went to some little islands called San Blas Islands off the coast of Panama, um, where the Cooney tribes took us across to their islands. There's about 200, 300 islands, no bigger than 100 meters wide,
Okay.
and you lived on the island and you ate from the sea, the lobsters in the rocks. And it was probably, maybe when you're in London or one of these top cities, and you see the supercars and you see the fancy yachts in the harbour, and you think, oh, I wish I could be on one of them. This was one of those places where this mega yacht pulled up, and I was like, I'd rather be on this island than be on that. This was really special. So there too, but I also love Cuba. I think Cuba is a really, really beautiful beaches. The people are really, really amazing people, and kind people. So there are quite a few destinations that I could say, or I'd love to um, to live in and go, but they're probably my top three: Belize, San Blas, and Cuba.
So let's move over to your food tastes at the moment. So, what is the best cuisine that you've eaten in your life so
Oh
far?
wow. Yeah. Well, do you just want one? Do I have to choose one?
Well, I suppose you could have a spread of it because you can't annoy your parents, can you?
Well, I love seafood. I'm a massive seafood fan. I think it's healthy, it feels, it's fresh. Um, and so, I love everything from just fresh seafood food, from oysters to scallops, mussels, prawns in avocado. But I also I like even I don't mind fried seafood, Bubba Gump restaurant, the Bubba Gump. I love Bubba Gump. I mean, the fried seafood there, and the blueberry milkshake is just amazing. Like every time there's a Bubba Gump, because we don't have it in Britain, we used to have one in London, but every time I go out anywhere, and if there's a Bubba Gump there, it's a must. I've got to go. I was in Bali, and there was one in Bali in Indonesia, and I was like, we've got to go here. So um, Always go to a Bubba Gump. But I've eaten at some really nice restaurants, you know. I mean, it had some really nice food. I mean, actually, saying that, I consider. I know I've just come back from there, but in Bali they had this incredible Vietnamese restaurant, and I think is it Pau Pau, which is like a Vietnamese traditional soup. Um,
That
with
sounds
a Yeah, it was beef and it had like they have kind of noodles, but in a kind of sauce. Not even a sauce; it's like a soup, a clear soup, and that was amazing. I mean, I must have eaten there about 3 or 4 times, and it cost a tenner, you know, £10, literally for this. And that was, I think, a meal of 2 and 3 drinks each, and you know, real warm summery punch drink. So quality. And but then I've eaten at some, I mean, Rick Stein's restaurant, you know,
yes,
amazing. You know, I've eaten there and that's just, you know, beautiful seafood. Um, uh, and
and
so,
amazing views mostly.
yeah, and pool over the harbour. That
Yeah,
was, you know, it's sandbanks actually over the pool harbour. That's beautiful. You know, Bob Rickard's in London. You know, you can just press a button and there's the way it comes with, you know, 70% absolute vodka just in a small glass. So, you know, they are even to the restaurants like Gaucho, the quality of just coming with a steak and talking about each of the steaks. In fact, that's where I learned about the Wagyu. My first time about learning about the Wagyu, and how the cow is massaged in Japan for about 2 years. That the bottom of the cow is massaged for 2 years, and it creates the Wagyu steak. But you know, I mean, there's so many restaurants over the years that I've eaten at. But I would definitely say seafood is my top dish. You know, I love anything seafood.
so do you have any traditional dish that you like to eat in any country, particularly?
No, not really. I mean, I like trying new things all the time, you know. I
Yes.
mean, I've been to Shenzhen in China and literally the Chinese came over and they said, "Right, do you want?" I said, "Can I have a look at the menu, please?" And a fish turned up, live fish in a bucket next to my chair, and they said, "You know, do you want this one?" And I'm looking at it swimming around, you know, and I'm thinking, and obviously
Right.
I said, yes, yeah, let's go for it, you know. But it's so I mean, there's been lots of different experiences. Even I remember being in Japan. I was with my dad, and I was served with a, you know, the full fish with the eye and everything, you know, fish eye and stuff like that. But that's not for me. That's too much seafood. But I do like not really. Mussels. I mean, I love, you know, in the morning, when I can afford it, of course, smoked salmon bagel, smoked salmon cream cheese bagel, you know, and I live off smoked salmon, you know, I literally live off smoked salmon. Um, so there isn't really anything that I'd go to straight away and say, yes, I go into a restaurant, look at the menu and decide what I'm gonna have. If seafood's there, that's the number one thing that I'll go for.
So,
Whatever it is.
so when it comes to Christmas time, it sounds like you have a main course of fish rather than
Yeah, do you know what? In fact, we have yeah, fish is served. Little canapé, you know, the little oh, not crumpets, and then with the smoked salmon on, or the Sainsbury's fresh kind of caviar, but it's, you know, like you can get it for 5, 6 quid, but it to make that's like special occasions and stuff. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
these sort of stuff is I mean well, no, I mean I like steak as well. You know, I like steak. But yeah, fish. There's no turkey, there's no duck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no turkey, no duck, no goose. It's all fish or steak or beef.
So I'll place the setting. So for whatever reason, uh, you've got to you've got to plan your last meal that you're going to have. There's no expense. You can be anywhere. So would you have a sort of repeat dining somewhere you've already been, or would it be completely fresh?
Completely, I can tell you exactly what I would have. I can tell you exactly. I would have um, uh, green and black olives as a starter with salted, bread with salted butter, soft bread with salted butter. Um, and I would then go straight to into the lobster thermidor,
Right.
or lobster with that Mary Rose sauce, with maybe truffle fries or truffle mash,
Nice.
and yeah, on the side. And for dessert, I'd probably have a. In fact, I'd throw a few king prawns in there as well on the side, on a side dish with the main meal. And then, I would have, as a dessert, something maybe like a Russian toffee, because I love Rush. It's just a name of a Russian toffee thing. It's beautiful toffee. But I would have, or I would have a chocolate bomb.
So would this be sort of intimate? Would it be with family, or would it be with friends, or all together?
Um, it would, well, if it was the last meal, it'd probably be family and friends. Friends play a huge part in my life, so I would be both.
And would you have a theme? Would it be informal, formal wear?
A theme. Well, I probably want Stormy Weather played whilst we're eating. And then, yeah, I probably want the Stormy Weather played while I'm eating. Um, in terms of theme, maybe a bit of James Bond theme.
Oh,
I
excellent.
think, a James Bond kind of um, theme. I think that'd be pretty cool.
And would you have alcohol or aperitifs, or push the boat out?
Do you know, I don't know whether it's because, growing up, I partied a lot and, you know, go to events and alcohol's there, and I don't like it as much anymore. I mean, it's nice to have a beer, and I think I would prefer to have like mocktails with,
Yes.
fruity mocktails with, blueberries and raspberries and strawberries and kiwis and,
Yeah.
really, and mango and exotic passion fruits, and, all crushed with ice, into a drink. That's what I'd rather have.
So what would you tell your younger self to improve your, lifestyle and career prospects?
I think would I think probably when I was younger, if we're going back into like education, to listen more. I like to talk, and I was always, a bit boisterous, full of energy, which there's nothing wrong with. But I think if I'd have, listened more. I mean, when I was at university, I really put my head down and I read a lot of books, and I did a lot of research. And had I done that a little bit earlier on, I'd be able to. I mean, I speak a little bit of Arabic, very, very little bit, but I would have loved to learn more languages. And I think that would have, if I'd have been a little bit more academic, a little bit more focused on research, I'd have been far more fluent in different foreign languages, and, maybe have um, even higher qualifications and things like that. So maybe those are the things that I would have probably listened to, and if I could teach myself to be a bit more academic and research focused, um, uh, earlier on, I'd known even more, and it'd help because I believe that knowledge is power.
And is there a question that I have missed that you thought I would ask?
Really? No, I mean, I think you've covered, most of everything really. I mean, in terms of the theme, what would you have for your last meal? Um, I mean, I'm hungry now. I'm thinking about all the food that I've just talked
But
about.
it's
I think,
nearly
right,
lunchtime, so
yeah, I'm gonna literally have to go and find a Bubba Gump now.
so thank you for watching Last Meal on Earth with Henri Pearson, account manager, IPM 30 under 30, and fantastic music artist. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.
So can we hold on through the stormy weather? I never wanna let you go. So can we hold on? Let's just be together. This time we're gonna take it slow.
Stormy Weather, the fantastic brand new single from Henri Pearson. Out now for streaming and download on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon and Google Play. Stormy Weather by Henri Pearson. Out now.
Hold on.